What's up? What's up? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another live stream. How does the volume sound, guys? I'm going to check it on my end real quick. I should have already had this up, but I forgot. Sounds like it's okay. So what's going on? How about these green candles? How's everyone feeling about the markets right now? Green, green, green all around. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. Get your questions in the comment section as well. We'll go through them after we go through a couple other things to start off the video. Welcome, Lexi, Crypto Gosu, what ups? Vinny the Doge, and Brian Kasky, welcome in. I appreciate everybody for being here. Now, as a lot of you guys might have already seen, because it's big news, we had the President of the United States obviously announce a trade deal with the UK. And I think that's partly what set off the pump that we're seeing right now. And on that note, I'm going to play a little video real quick. I apologize to anybody who hates this guy or hates hearing him, but it's important because he is the actual president right now. So just bear with me. That being said, he told everybody to buy stocks now. Now. And obviously that means crypto as well because they're kind of in the same boat. Risk assets. Let me see if I can get this on the screen for you guys real quick. Just take a quick listen to this, and I think this is also partly why the market pumped, because he literally told everybody to buy now before the trade deals or, whatever he's got in plan up ahead, because by then it will probably be too late.
It's the biggest bill of its kind ever in the history of this country. And Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune have done an incredible job. I mean, I'll let you know, we have to get a vote, but we have a lot of support for that bill. And if that happens on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very...
So, I tend to believe the guy when he says that. It's just a matter of when, we're actually going to see the real upswing. And there's still obviously some headwinds in the way. And so we saw a nice pump from that speech right there, as well as the trade deal with the UK come into place. And it makes me wonder, I've got the biggest trade partners with the US here listed from, biggest to smallest, at least the top 10. And Mexico, Canada, and China are the top three. United Kingdom is down at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it's only 3% of trade back and forth with the UK. So it makes me wonder, like, when he announces an official trade deal with, and everything's settled between these top 3 countries here, China, Canada, and Mexico, what the markets will do at that point in time. And you want to be in the market before stuff like that happens, right? Because once it happens, it's probably too late, and you're going to be FOMOing in, on the way up rather than buying towards the bottom. Another portion of that interview that you saw with Trump there, before that, he was asked about Jerome Powell, and he, as far as lowering interest rates and all that kind of stuff, and he said it's like talking to a wall because the guy doesn't budge, and he calls him too late Powell because everything he does is too late, which is kind of true because in 2022 he was too late to start raising the rates, right? And that's kind of why we're in the situation that we're in right now, because everything kind of got pushed back. And now he's saying that he's too late to start cutting rates. And so I think there's a tension between the two right now, and I don't know how that's going to play out moving forward. But at least, for our sake and our altcoin season and our risk on asset season, where we really truly see major double-digit pumps on a daily basis, at least there's pressure from the ones in charge of the U.S. right now to the Fed to cut interest rates, okay? When it happens, we don't know. But at least there's pressure on them, because if there wasn't even pressure from the top down, then who knows how long this would take. Maybe we don't even see an altcoin season. Excuse me. But another indicator that things are doing well right now is this Ethereum chart, right? How long has it been since Ethereum's been in this downtrend and has been labeled dead? And I've told you guys that in order to see the rest of the altcoins pump, Ethereum is going to need to pump because it is the top dog in the altcoin space, right? Whether you want to believe it or not now. I know Solana has gained a lot of ground on Ethereum, but Ethereum is still number 1 in the altcoin space in market cap. And typically in past cycles, history will tell us that when Ethereum pumps, the rest of the altcoin market wakes up big time, okay? And that's why I've been telling you guys, whether you like Ethereum or not, we need to root for it, because this is what happens, right? Ethereum, over the last 2 days, at this wick, pumped 40%, which is huge for an asset that large. Like massive for a market cap that large. And so you've seen what the other altcoins have done on the heels of that. And so that's just a glimpse into what we're going to see when we finally get our altcoin season, okay? And Ethereum always leads the way. You don't need to hold any of it. You don't need to like it, but you need to root for it, because it plays a major part in altcoin season. When it pumps, the rest of the altcoin season feels more comfortable to pump along with it, because it is the top dog in the altcoin space, okay? So that being said, before we get into the comments, Benjamin Cowen made a video yesterday, I believe it was. Most of you guys probably know who he is. and a lot of you guys may watch him, but I highly recommend that you go take a look at his, I don't know if it's his latest video, but I have linked it in my description down below, and it is based on the premises that what if Bitcoin is actually the leader in liquidity and not a lag, or I guess that's the word, lagger in liquidity, right? Between the M1, what is it, the M1 money supply. And it was extremely interesting, and he made some very compelling cases for what we might see, if that is the case, moving forward into the rest of this year. So I highly recommend, I would try to explain it to you guys, but I'm going to butcher it to no end. And it's a much better listen if you just go take a look at his video. So props to him. He's been right basically about everything moving through this cycle so far. So it makes you wonder if he's onto something here, and that this pump in Bitcoin right here is actually an indicator that the money supply is, I think he said, 3 to 4 months behind what Bitcoin does. And it's going to give us an insight to when we get that altcoin season, potentially. A lot of people, always say that Bitcoin lags the money supply by about 3 months, 3 to 4 months. And he's making the case that what if it doesn't actually lag by 3 months, but it actually predicts what's going to happen 3 months prior. And it's very interesting. So I would highly recommend all of you guys go down in the description below and click on that link and watch that video. I think it's only like 15 minutes long or something like that. But it opened my eyes to, it just makes you think. Different perspective that nobody else is talking about. And in that video, it literally, if that is true, and what he's saying is actually fact, it tells you when the altcoin season is going to start. And that's roughly about 4 months from now today. It's also saying that over the summer, we might see some more downside and potentially come back down and maybe get, a lower high, or a higher low, sorry, or a double bottom here before we end up really taking off and going back up. But it's a very interesting video, so make sure you go take a look at it, you guys. So what are you guys actually feeling right now as far as market goes? Because it's been a while since we've had this size of a pump, and it feels good. Let's be honest. So let's start up here. Lexi says hi. And do you believe in a Q4 top for altcoin season? I do. Short answer. And the reason for that is history tells us that that's when the market usually tops out. It may not do that forever, but I'm of the theory that I am going to assume that things are going to play out the same way until they don't. Okay? There's always a slightly different path. Not every 4-year market cycle is exactly the same. The 2016 cycle and the 2021 cycle were very different on how they got to the certain point that they got to, but they still ended up topping in Q4 of the post-halving year. And this cycle seems to be following the 2016 cycle, more so than last cycle. And you got to remember that in that cycle, altcoins were actually at their cycle lows against Bitcoin in November of the post-halving year. And they had an excellent November and December, and then we topped out. I think some of them ran a little bit into January. But it was like a 1 or 2 month real quick, sharp spike up, right, for the altcoin season, and then we go back down again. Altcoin seasons are typically only like a month or two every 4 years, and that's what we wait for. And you can get, major pumps by different altcoins throughout, but the whole market in general for that really big altcoin season is usually only 1 or 2 months. And, at the end of the post-halving year in quarter 4, every 4 years. And so that's what we all wait for, and we hope it comes again this cycle. I assume it will, but, until I'm proven wrong and it proves something different from what it's done its whole entire life, I'm going to continue to believe that the same thing's going to play out. Always a pleasure to tune in. Green tea again, my guy. You are literally helping to print millionaires in the making. I appreciate all you do. Well, I appreciate you joining. Green tea is always good. I'm drinking sparkling water again tonight. I think next week I will pour a glass of whiskey again. But I try my best. It's tough. These markets are very tough because they are the road to the top is absolutely brutal, and you have to endure more downside and choppiness and annoyingness, and that's probably not even a word, and it rips you apart on the journey. And the people who can make it to the end are the ones that are going to be successful. And that's what I try and, I don't want to say preach, but try and embed into people's brains that you need to just be patient. There's a lot of people out there, I see it in my comment section every day, that Caspa's never going to pump again, that I'm an idiot because Caspa only pumps in bear markets, and it hasn't been around long enough to prove anything different yet. But it's a first cycle coin, and it's not going to just sit, between 7 and 10 cents while everything else goes ape shit in the fourth quarter of this year. It's just not going to sit and watch everything go up while it just hangs out at the 10-cent range. I can pretty much promise that. Yeah, Vinny, Bitcoin dominance has dropped. I wonder, though, if that was the actual top, or I imagine it's going to have another run, but I don't know if it's going to be a higher high or a lower high, right? And I think that's going to happen during the summer, while we finally get a decision on rate cuts, quantitative tightening. Remember, we still have those headwinds in the way. This pump was nice, and it was a breath of fresh air, but that also gives us more breathing room for when and if we do get the next correction, that we don't go down below red flag levels, right? Let me put this back on the screen here. I imagine that we're going to need to stay above this 2024 high, which is, I know you can't see it because my shoulder's in the way, but it's about $73,000. $73,500, We almost hit it here, and I think there's a chance that we actually come back down here. I know that sounds scary, and maybe impossible based on what we're seeing right now, but just remember, anything's possible in crypto. And like I said before, the markets will dig at you and make you want to sell and make you just give up. And so just imagine the sentiment of the market if after this pump we come all the way back down into the $70,000s, $75,000 range, $74,000 range, before we end up taking off for good. And that would be, around the time that they'll cut rates, potentially in quantitative tightening. Things will get, remember, you have to, in order for them to start cutting, there has to be sickness in the market. And I wonder if we're going to see some more sickness before they cut rates and before they end quantitative tightening. But yeah, I would imagine another drop down into the low 70s is going to make a lot of people exit the market again. If we even go there, we may get a higher low, which could just bring us down into like 80,000 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe just down into this area again, since we've gone up so much, into the mid 80s. There's a lot of support here, so. But I guess the reason I came over here was for the Bitcoin dominance, and then I didn't actually. Let's take a look at it. %63%. So we're still above 60. It did drop a lot, though. You guys can see this. Candle here. We had a drop all the way down. Yeah, 3.2% at the bottom. Right now we're sitting at 2.6% drop from the top. But if you look over here, we've had some other during this run up. We've had some other drops that were probably similar. Yeah, 3.3%. So it's not out of the question that we get a pump back up, right? And maybe we just double top up here and then it drops for good. Maybe that's all that needs to happen. But it would be nice, like, let's be honest, Bitcoin dominance has been going up forever. And it'd be very nice if we can actually see a top in that, it fall off a cliff, and altcoins, start absolutely outperforming Bitcoin, which is what we want, right? That's the end goal here. But we'll probably only see that for a month or two, potentially in Q4. The journey is very, very, very long for just a month or two of euphoric action. It almost seems ridiculous sometimes. Brian's feeling awesome. Yep. I'm pretty sure everybody is right about now. Continuing to swap for... Oh, I read that wrong. I thought you were saying continuing to swap Caspa for meme coins, which in the long run is probably not the greatest idea, but if you're a good day trader, maybe that works out. Continuing to swap for Caspa meme coins. Always appreciate you, Cat Daddy. Appreciate you for being here, Brian. Much love, my dude. Caspa Bull, how much do you think... what do you think... how much market cap of Nacho can go. Sorry, I butchered that because it's not written very well, but I get the point. How much market cap can Nacho go? I would probably say it's hard to tell, man, because what we're gonna see here, there's gonna be two scenarios. Once Egra Labs and regular smart contracts come onto the scene, then one of two things is going to happen. Either that's going to be the kind of the tornado that catches everything in it, and the KRC20 is going to be forgotten, or the KRC20 is actually going to be looked at as more scarce and the OGs in the space, and it will perform very well. And it's hard to know which will happen, which is why I only own 2 KRC20 tokens, and one of them is Nacho, because I think Nacho is the blue chip of that space and category, per se. But if we, let me see here. Let me see if we can pull up the Nacho chart here. Those are NFTs. So Nacho is sitting at 12.7 million market cap. I would probably say maybe 100 million market cap. I'm just literally spitballing and guessing, though, because it's hard to say. It's all going to depend on how well Caspa itself does, right? Which we think it's going to do very well. All of the meme coins and stuff will follow. Oh, that's interesting. The Zeal token is now second in market cap. Interesting. It's up 13% over the last 24 hours. How many of you guys got into that token, by the way? So what is that? 100 million, that would be a 20x? It might do more than 100 million in market cap. Maybe 500 million tops. I'm just guessing, though. I don't know. Nonetheless, I wouldn't put a whole lot of money into Nacho or any KRC20 token for that matter. It should be a very small percentage of your portfolio. Because it's risky. The risk reward isn't as high as something like, Caspa would be in general. Meme coins are cool to have, but they need to be a smaller percentage. You shouldn't go all in on them. Somebody, I'm in Canada, we're cooked. We need a Trump. Yeah, I mean, Canada's pretty one-dimensional right now. Let's just put it that way. But, there's always I know it's harder, maybe easier said than done and harder for a lot of people, depending on your wealth status, but you could always move out of the country as well and come down to the United States. I know there's a give and take there, but there's always that option, I guess. Buffalo Theory agrees with somebody about Canada. Go watch the Plan K vids. It will evolve your thoughts on Caspa. I used to watch him, actually. I haven't in a while. I didn't know he was still active. So maybe I'll have to go find him and re-watch some of his videos. Yeah, Brian, the M2 global money supply, I know Raoul is like dead set. That's what the only thing he really focuses on. And it's interesting. That's why the Ben Cowen video that he posted was extremely interesting, because it adds another wrinkle to the money supply, right? It still is based on the money supply, but it's a different angle on the money supply. So it was extremely interesting to hear that, angle of the Bitcoin and money supply correlation. What's the name of this video that you're watching, or the Ben Cowen video? It's in the description down below if that's what you're talking about. So all you have to do is go down there. It's labeled, and you just click the link, and it'll pop up. Unless you're talking about this video, which would be weird, but I could tell you the name of this video, but it's probably right on your screen. JJ, I know we all want Caspa listings, smart contracts, etc., but this is the perfect opportunity. Yeah, perfect opportunity to load up. So let's just bring up Crypto Galaxy for a second, right? His mantra, whatever you want to call it, is buy before the pumps, okay? And you get the pumps with upgrades / smart contracts / tier 1 listings. And so the secret to winning and making a lot of money in crypto is to buy before all of these things happen, and then you can ride the wave of wealth once they do happen. It's a pretty simple theory, and it works. But you're right. I mean, technical upgrades don't usually pump the price. We saw that with the Crescendo hard fork, but we are also not in the best, market conditions in order, minus the last 24 hours we kind of have been. But when the, Crescendo hard fork actually went live, market conditions weren't that great, and so you can't expect a massive pump to all-time highs when you've got a lot of weight holding down the whole market. It just doesn't work that way. And so I didn't expect much of a pump. We got a little pump to like 11 cents, and then it came right back down. Kind of exactly what I expected. But buying before all of that stuff happens is the best way to make money. But you're banking on it happening, right? So that's the catch-22 there. With Caspa, I think it's all going to happen. With some projects, you're banking on it potentially happening and hoping that you get to ride that wave. Looking like Q1 2026, that's possible. I still think that we get the top of the market in Q4, but we just kind of have to watch, right? We'll play it by ear, and if the market's not pumping and hasn't really pumped by Q4, then maybe it will be Q1 2026. I just have a hard time going against what history has done over and over again, given there's only like 3 data points. And thinking something else is going to happen when we've never seen it happen before. So, although in 2016, I think we technically did see some altcoins top out, or at least continue to pump in the first part of it would have been 2017 back then, which was Q1 of the post-halving year. Leader, how long does a bull run? If a bull run could run. It depends on where you want to start it at. I mean, technically we're in a bull run right now. It's just right? Because Bitcoin was at $15,000 at the bottom of 2022, and now we're at $103,000. And so we're in a bull run. It's just a matter of, like, Bitcoin's in a bull run. The altcoins have gone up a little bit. This last correction we got, though, kind of took them back down to some lows that we hadn't seen in a while. The altcoin bull run, where everything is going parabolic and retail comes back in and your cab driver's asking you about it, your mom's friend's uncle that you haven't seen in 7 years is asking you about Bitcoin. Everybody around you is talking about it. Celebrities are talking about it. It's just everywhere you look, crypto this, crypto that, Bitcoin this, Ethereum that. That is the altcoin season typically, and the parabolic blow off top of the bull run, and that's usually only a month or two in Q4 of the post-halving year, which we're in right now. And so in theory, if everything plays out like previous cycles and monetary policy decides to be our friend in the second half of this year, we should see that in Q4. November, December maybe, or, October, November. I don't know. We just kind of have to monitor it. It may not top out in the exact same month it did last cycle, which was November, but I would imagine it's going to be within a month or two of that, one way or another. Abraham, bags are pumping nicely. I honestly don't think we're anywhere near top of cycle. No, I don't think we are either. And it's one of those things. So when you're in this part of the cycle, it's hard to imagine that your whole entire portfolio is going to 10x or 20x or 30x, right? It's very difficult to imagine because we've been sitting in this choppiness and we've been getting a little relief here, but then it comes back down, right? We get all excited, then it comes back down. And it's extremely frustrating, and it chews you into pieces. And it's very difficult, like I said, to imagine your portfolio, 10, 20, 30xing from this point. But it can happen because it's happened in the past, and I would argue there's a very good chance that it still is going to happen, right? And depending on what your portfolio is made up of, depends on how many X's you're going to get in your total portfolio. But it's better to get a 10X on some less risky projects, which I would say should be at least 50% of your portfolio, if not more, some safe projects, rather than to go all in on meme coins and hope that yours is going to hit, But I agree with you. I don't think we're near the top of the cycle. I think in Q4, a lot of people are going to be very surprised. And when we look back, we're going to be like, yeah, well, it happened just like it normally happens. Crypto Otis, I appreciate the super chat. Thanks for being real, just like your dad in real estate. Thanks for being real. You just typed it twice. That's actually pretty crazy. You remember that story from a couple streams ago. But yeah, that's how I was raised, and that's how I like to live my life. Honest, real as I can possibly be. So, I appreciate the super chat, and I appreciate you coming back for another stream. Leader, I think Nacho will do very well. Kraken might list it soon. Yeah, like I said, and another thing with those KRC20s is, are they going to get, bigger exchange listings? And some of them probably will. It's risky to go super deep into the KRC20 space, in my opinion, right? But there's probably some of you guys out there that are way more degen than I am. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Just understand the risk to reward there. Code Monkey. Someone's got to fill in for Infamous. I didn't see your comment before that may have warranted the laugh. Maybe I missed it, but I'm pretty sure I did not see it. So I don't even know what you're referring to there. But you're right. Yeah, we kind of miss Infamous around here. Brian, how are you playing your Tangem held coins? Like sending to exchange to sell or swap internally? So my, what I'm probably going to do is swap internally into stable coins. And then I'm going to hold my stable coins in the Tangem wallet. And then when I need to transfer money into my bank account, then I'm going to send the amounts that I need to send for what I need to purchase into a bigger exchange. Might it be Coinbase or Crypto.com or whatever bigger exchange you use, Kraken maybe, and then into the bank account from there. And you typically do not want to send, rule of thumb, higher than a $10,000 at a time limit into these bigger exchanges, because there's a better chance that you get red flagged for whatever reason by sending a larger amount of money into there. And while it's on that exchange, it's technically not your crypto, and you just want to be under the radar, I guess you could say. And so that is my plan, to send amounts of less than $10,000 at a time to my bigger exchange and then into my bank account from there. That being said, if Tangem Pay with Visa ends up coming on the scene in the US, where I live, I know it's going to start in the EU, and the fees for using that Tangem Visa card at a store or wherever Visa is accepted, the fees aren't that high. I might use that for some profit taking as well, because it's just easy, right? All you're doing, you already have the card. You transfer from one Tangem to the Visa Tangem, and you can just swipe it at any store. And so that might be something that I look into and use as well, if it's even available for me to use this cycle. Memes are pumping already. Yeah, they are. Memes and layer ones are always going to do the best. Memes are more risky, but if you're in the right ones, they pump like crazy. So they should never be a massive part of your portfolio in theory, But they are a lot of them are gonna do very well. There's no getting around that. Chirp, made it a little late. How you doing? I'm good, Chirp. Thanks for coming by. Work is important, though, so no big deal. I'm glad you're here. Moodang is up 67% today. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's some meme coins that are going to do very well. A layer 1 in meme coin portfolio, if that's all you invested in, is probably going to do very well. Crypto Otis, low leverage trade, SUI, Psy, and CAS. Either long or short, looking for $100 today. Or $100 a day. Yeah, I mean, if you can, I mean, if you're comfortable, just be careful. But if you're comfortable with that and, you know, and can read the charts, I guess you could say, then more power to you. I hope you do make $100 a day. That'd be amazing. I'm going to be, in this next bear market, I'm going to concentrate on learning how to trade and reading charts. A lot of trading, though, if you just follow monetary policy, you can actually do pretty well. But there's a lot of indicators on charts if you're doing more short-term stuff. And I kind of want to get better at that so I can, you know, make some, or hopefully make some profits, you know, short-term trading things. It's interesting to me. But as of right now, I don't even try it because I'll lose money. Let's do this first. Memes are in the shitter. Well, not as of today. Or you say KRC20 memes are in the shitter. They have been for a while. I haven't looked at them, although I have it up here. We just looked at it. Some of them are up double digits, but some of them are actually down as well. Yeah, actually, a lot of them are down double digits right now. So, you know, if you're embedded in that space and you kind of know what you're doing, then, you know, everyone's kind of allowed to do what they want to do. And Brian has been playing the Conan cards and has been the lead dog, pun intended. Where is Conan today? It's up 5% today. NJ Floater, I got a Zeal bag. Good for you. I didn't buy any, and I probably should add that to my portfolio, especially being as fond of Caspa as I am. It's the first DEX on Caspa. I'll let you guys know if and when I do buy some. But maybe I'll wait until this summer. I think we're going to have another dip in the market right before quantitative tightening stops. That's just my personal opinion. And maybe I'll grab some then. Cool, we'll watch Ben's video. Yeah, recommend it. It's just a different take on the money supply and how it correlates to Bitcoin. Trey, Plan K is the best. I heard someone make a great point about Caspa's power law, saying it only starts after smart contracts. Yeah, you know what's funny about those power law type of things? Is everybody is gung-ho and all for it. Bitcoin did the same thing when it's following inside of the channel, right? And when it goes above the channel, nobody's concerned at all. It's just commonplace in a blow-off top scenario, and then it'll fall back in the channel. But when it goes below the channel, everybody freaks out and say, oh, it's no longer following the power law, right? Bitcoin did the same thing multiple times. When it goes above the channel, it's still following the power law, right? But when it goes below the channel, it's all of a sudden not following the power law anymore. So you can't have it both ways. And, you know, I believe Caspa's back in the channel. I'm not going to look it up right now. But yeah, maybe that is a thing. I don't know that that's actually going to be the case, though, because, you know, Bitcoin doesn't really have smart contracts. So why would Caspa, in theory, need them to stay inside the power law channel? But maybe that is a thing. I don't know. Thomas, Cat Daddy is pro-America, pro-common sense, and from what I hear, a great dad. Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. The kind words. I try my best. Also, smash the like button. Thomas has mandated everybody to smash the like button. So do it. Do it now. Buffalo Theory is swapping stables in the tangent when I'm ready to take profits. Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's the easiest, most efficient way, I think. Right? You're not having to move things around like crazy just to get into stablecoins. Because if you can transfer them into stablecoins inside of the Tangent wallet, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. You're going to be paying fees to ship them out and back and forth, and you know, a lot of people are going to want to move their stablecoins back into a cold storage wallet after they swap them anyways, so why not just swap them in the wallet and not risk losing any crypto as you're trying to transfer it between exchanges, you know? Also, another interesting thing is, for those of you guys who haven't been around for a while, when things get really heated and there's a ton of movement and volume and trading in the market, like in a bull market, in a parabolic part of the bull market, a lot of these big exchanges actually stop and freeze. And so you're not able to do anything, right? What happens if all your money's in Coinbase, which, by the way, this has happened on multiple occasions in past cycles, where Coinbase just pauses everything because they can't keep up with the volume. And what if you are at the top of the market and you want to sell some of your crypto or swap it into a stable coin, and Coinbase has frozen everything and will not let you do it? And then by the time they open things back up, right, your profits are down 30% from where they were when you were about to sell. So that's another reason why swapping inside of the Tangent wallet, where you're on a DEX, they use a decentralized exchange to make those swaps. Those should not go down or be paused or anything during high levels of volume times when everybody's trying to sell, swap, take profits, all that kind of good stuff. So, or for the newbies, buy, because they think the market's going to go up forever. So just be careful, too, that big exchanges, it's probably better to swap inside your Tangent wallet, hold your stables until everything calms down in the market and the volume has lowered, right? We're on our way back down into a bear market, and then you start transferring money out so that you're not frozen on anything. So just keep that in mind. The big exchanges do freeze. Coinbase does it every single time we see a massive spike in the market where you need to sell your crypto. And obviously a lot of people are trying to. They can't handle the volume. They pause everything on their exchange. And you might lose out on a lot of money holding your money on an exchange like that. So just be careful. Brian, I chart a lot. Definitely lots of work. Yeah, I'm assuming it is. You've got to be very in tune to what you're doing if you're going to be, trading on a regular basis. Otherwise, you're literally just going to lose money over and over again, I would imagine. I know that's what would happen to me right now if I tried. So I'm going to do a lot of research and training into that this bear market. Just draw more colored lines around it. Around what? Nick, am I a moon boy thinking CAS can still do $3 in Q4 2025? No. If we get it depends though on monetary policy. So if we get a true altcoin season, then that's not out of the question. But like I said, it doesn't seem like right now that that's even possible with anything, right? Because we just have been chopping for so long that it just kind of trains your brain to believe that this is just what we're doing, right? And nothing can happen outside of what we've been doing for a year and a half now. But I guarantee you that things move very quickly when we get that altcoin season. Very quickly. I used to hate CAS because I thought it was an overrated HBAR 2.0 with a bunch of fake utility hype. I'm coming around now. If it's as fast yet affordable to swap as they say, that itself will be good. Yeah. The thing that separates Caspa from a project like HBAR, for instance, is that it is pure. Okay, HBAR is proof of stake. It has a team. It has a founder. I mean, you can argue that Caspa has a founder, but they have stepped back. Right? Somebody had to create the code to launch Caspa, but they have stepped back, and they don't own any significant portion of the supply, because they fair mind it, and they told themselves as a team that I think 1% was the top amount that they were going to mine themselves, right? Because they got in early, obviously, but they didn't want to overmine and hold too much of the supply. And so a project like HBAR, you've got the team owning, I would imagine, 50% or more of the supply, and they're able to pretty much do whatever they want, right? They dump on their followers, and it's not decentralized. It's not, fairly launched, obviously, because it was created. Basically, proof of stake, you create tokens out of thin air, and Caspa's mineable. It takes computing power and energy to actually earn Caspa tokens. It's the closest project, tokenomics-wise, as you can get to Bitcoin, right? It's very similar pureness as Bitcoin is. And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't care, whatever it might be. But as a proof of work consensus project, right, it's got all of the same behind-the-scenes technical tokenomic type stuff as Bitcoin does, but it's able to scale like Bitcoin wasn't, right? It's a newer technology on a block DAG, and they were able to do something that was deemed to be impossible on a proof of work project, and that is scalability. And they have done that. So what's going to happen is you need the users to come, right? And once smart contracts are launched, the hope is that developers and anybody else just playing around in crypto is going to see how fast, how cheap, and how scalable this project actually is on a proof of work network that holds much higher security than any proof of stake, right? And now it's faster than any proof of stake crypto out there. It makes zero sense why people would not want to do their, at bare minimum, stablecoin transactions on Caspa, right? Because you're getting the best value for transferring back and forth, and it's safer than any other proof of stake crypto, i.e. Tron, which is the top stablecoin blockchain right now. It's going to be cheaper, it's going to be faster, and it's going to be more secure than Tron ever will be. And so I think once people finally see that, whether it happens this cycle or next cycle, I don't know. But there will be people to come around, and let's hope that a lot of developers, see that and decide to move over. Another cool thing with Caspa is you're going to be able to use different coding languages to build on top of Caspa. You don't have to use just one coding language. There's going to be Solidity, because it's going to be EVM compatible. Rust, I believe the Sparkle, which is Casper Bot's version of smart contracts that's going to come out at some point, I think this summer, is going to be able to use Rust. So you're going to be able to use, which is Solana's coding language, by the way. You're going to be able to use a comfortable coding language for you, so you don't have to adapt to come over and use it either, which I think is going to be very valuable and enticing for a lot of developers as well, once they realize the scalable factor as well as how easy it is to build and how cheap it is to build on Caspa. So it's got a lot of things going for it. Plus, in its roots and its origin, it's very similar to Bitcoin on top of all of what we just talked about. So it has a lot of what Bitcoin has, plus it's scalable. And, for us that can see it early, I think we're going to be benefited in the long run by holding some. That's just what I think. A lot of people don't see it yet, but I'm glad you're coming around. It's not just me, obviously, shilling Caspa because I own it. I actually believe that this is the next, iteration of the crypto space because of what it can do and what was deemed impossible that now Caspa has successfully conquered, right? And it's not even stopping at 10 blocks per second, which gives it a max of 3,000 transactions per second when the users come in. But they're going to go into 32 blocks per second and then into 100 blocks per second, which is going to make it absolutely, hands down, not even compete with anything else as far as everything that we just talked about. So this is just the beginning. And I think once people start realizing what it is, what it can do, then more and more people are going to come over. I think swapping to stables is a great idea. Not sure what fees will be. Yeah, and it's going to depend on where you swap at. If you sent your money in 10,000 or less dollar increments out to a smaller sketchy exchange like Mexi or BitSmart or CoinX or something, you're going to get cheaper fees when you're swapping into stable coins. But is it worth the potential amount of times you have to send out certain amounts, losing it in the meantime. Does that exchange, disappear in the bear market and steal everybody's money? I don't know. There's a lot of risks there. Putting in the right address every time you send, and then you're going to swap it for a stable coin for cheaper on those smaller exchanges, but then you're going to have to send it back to cold storage, right? So there's a lot of swapping and a lot of sending back and forth that can easily allow you to get complacent and maybe not check the address, I don't know, and lose a bunch of money, potentially. So it's probably a better idea to pay a little bit more in fees and just not have to worry about all of that sending back and forth, right? And swapping into stable coins is obviously the way to go because it follows your fiat currency rather than the cryptocurrency that you're swapping out of as cryptocurrencies go back into a bear market, right? So you're going to stay more stable. And then when you feel like you want to send things out and, buy things, purchase things, you can send them out to your bigger exchange when the volumes are lower and everything is kind of not in a hype mode anymore, would be a good way of saying it. Venturi, you still hate CAS. You just want to make money out of it now. Are you talking to me? Or somebody else in the chat? Because, yeah, of course I want to make money off of CAS, but I'm also keeping some of it. You'd be stupid not to sell some of your profits, in my opinion. I'm not going to, hate on anybody who wants to hold their whole bag into next cycle, but I'm taking some profits. And I suggest that everybody else does too. That's just, my word of advice. At least take your initials back out. I've been around since 2017 and had great luck with Kraken. Had Coinbase freeze me at least twice in the last few years, and I love Tangem. Yeah, Coinbase, every time the market goes crazy, Coinbase freezes. And imagine if by the time it unfreezes, the market's 20 or 30% lower than it was when you were planning on selling, and you've lost that much profit. So you got to be careful. That's good about Kraken, because I have a Kraken account. Maybe I'll go that route. I don't think Kraken does as much volume, though, so maybe that's why. It doesn't need to, freeze transactions because it can keep up with the amount of volume that's going into it. Possibly, I don't know. It's true, but swapping on Tangem might be slow AF. It might be slower, but you're not risking quite as much. I mean, I'm not telling you guys what you have to do, right? I'm telling you what I'm doing and what I think is probably going to be the most efficient and easiest route. But if you want to go a different route, then, you don't have to listen to me. More power to you. I disliked it because it sounded like HBAR and YouTubers were hyping it. Yeah, so that's another thing with a lot of those proof of stake projects have a marketing budget and they pay YouTubers and influencers to, promote their project. Whereas Caspa does not have a marketing budget, so anybody who is talking about Caspa is not getting paid by the team, right? They're doing it because they actually believe in the project. And yeah, who doesn't want money? Yeah. The whole point for the vast majority of people in crypto is to make money, make life-changing money. And the fact that anyone would criticize anybody for taking profits, even if it's a project like Caspa that I see as being the biggest thing in crypto for years to come, is just petty in my opinion. I will never ever ever fault anybody for taking profits on anything for that matter. People still take profits on Bitcoin every cycle, and then they buy back into Bitcoin when the price is lower the following year in the bear market. That's just the way the crypto market works. And a lot of people make a lot of money doing that. And I will sell a lot of my Caspa at the top. I'm going to hold a bag long term, but I will probably buy in again in the bear market. There is no guarantee that Tangem won't freeze transaction conversions either. Well, you're technically right, but they use DEXs, and DEXs usually work flawlessly no matter how much volume. And there's going to be multiple DEXs being used. And so the chances are less that that's going to happen. But you're right, anything can happen, so... The only downside to a DEX is that we can't set up automatic profit-taking indicators. We have to do it manually. We have to manually do it. Yeah, that is correct. You know, if you're on an exchange, you can actually set sell limits, so it'll automatically sell for you. So there is that ease of not having to be glued to your screen every single day. But keep in mind that the parabolic part of the cycle is usually only about a month or two. And so you're really only paying attention for a month or two when it's all said and done. So, you know, weigh the, you know, some things are going to be easier for some people and, you know, in certain occasions, and some people are going to think that other things are easier. You just have to do what's comfortable for you. Pretty sure 70% of HBAR is held by developers, and the team, the team would be in that. That's too scary for me. Yeah. Like I said, it was 50% at a minimum is probably held by the team and early backers and VCs and developers, whatever you want to call them. It's all related, and they can dump on you at any point in time, which really hinders its upside, right? When it's all said and done. Caspa looks like BTC and ETH combined. That's what I appreciate about it. Yeah, so it's pure like Bitcoin, but it's able to scale, and even ETH can't scale really at this point in time. So you can argue it's better than ETH. The problem is ETH already, you know, was a early mover, right? It was there first as far as smart contracts, and so it has already garnered a ton of users. And so there's already that community that is going to stick with ETH, you know, through hell or high water probably. And Caspa needs to bring in users at this point in time. And if it can, the sky is the limit for what it can do. Literally, sky's the limit. My favorite stablecoin is ADA. Yeah. ADA's a weird one. It's super boring to me. Like I said, I don't fault anybody for holding what they want to hold. But it just seems like, you know, in its credit, it has produced new all-time highs in every cycle that it's been around, multiple cycles. And so good for it on that account. And this is technically the first cycle that it's had smart contracts, so maybe it does well, I don't know. But it usually doesn't do a goddamn thing until alt season. It stays very sideways. So it is the joke that it can be a stable coin for a while. I'll probably hold 25% of my Caspa until next bull run. Yeah, that's a good number. You know, sell... What is that, 85? No, that would be 75. My math is terrible. And hold 25. That's a fairly reasonable ratio. And somebody is going to sell all and buy back in the bear. That's also very reasonable. I don't fault anybody for doing either one of those things. Yeah, they use 3 different DEXs, Tangem. With Caspa, I think only Changerly right now, right? I imagine they're going to implement... Zealous swap at some point. With other tokens, they probably use different DEXs, obviously, because they're on different chains. But I think Changerly is the only... I haven't swapped inside Tangem in a while, so I don't know. Maybe there is a couple more, but I thought Changerly was the only DEX that you can swap Caspa with right now. This is a good question. Do you expect CAS to dump that bad? If stables and warp core go well, I expect it not to drop that much during the bear. Be careful, because it usually doesn't matter what is going on chain during the time. A bear market is a bear market, and the vast majority of cryptos drop 85 to 90%. A lot of altcoins drop 99%. I expect Caspa to be on the lower end, but it's not going to not drop less than Bitcoin in its second cycle. Right? So it outperformed last bear market. I don't expect it to outperform this next bear market. I expect it to follow suit with the vast majority of altcoins, and it's definitely going to drop at least as much as Bitcoin drops, which is usually like 85% from its highs, whatever it tops out at this cycle. And I would bet money that it drops more than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is top dog. That's my take. I'm sticking to it, and I don't see myself being wrong in that prediction. Oh my god, you guys. We have a celebrity in the house. Infamous is back. Spamming the chat once again. And maybe we'll read one or two of his comments, but in the meantime, why don't channels like Paul Barron Network ever mention CAS? Because CAS doesn't pay them. That's one of the reasons. A lot of the coins that they mention are paid sponsorships. XRP does it a lot. I know Polkadot was doing it heavily last year. And a lot of other projects, they have a marketing budget. They pay these guys to talk about them. I don't know for sure exactly which projects, but there's also probably some that they just like and they talk about. But that's a big reason. And Buffalo Theory says it right there. Yeah, they're not getting paid to shill. I appreciate you coming back and hanging out, Infamous. Also, memes on Solana are going parabolic. Bull season is here. Yep, I agree with that to an extent, but we're still going to see a pullback in the summer, I believe. Altcoins will go down again before we really get the parabolic run. Am I able to store my daughter's Nacho NFT on Tangent Wallet? That is a good question. I know that they integrated KRC20. I'm not sure if they integrated the KRC721. Is that what it is? 721? I'm going to write that down because let me look into that. I'll get back to you. I'll answer that question on the next stream. So I don't have to look it up right now. That being said, guys, we're about at the hour-and-a-half mark, so I am going to sign off. I appreciate everybody for being here, and come back next Friday. We'll be here again. I love you all, and in the meantime, continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late.